Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fab Fatties. We're so excited to have you join us this week. I am Allie.
Alyssa.
Rebecca.
And we've got something a little different for you this week. We're a little excited about it. I'm a little nervous about it, but here we go. I'm going to preface this with, this is not a true crime podcast. I am not a true crime podcaster. So if you want better research, go to a true crime podcast. That's my PSA from me to you. Okay.
She goes, actually, don't watch this episode.
No.
We're going to do a very amateurish storytelling.
We're going to do a little, we're getting a little culty today, everybody. And I'm very excited about it. So I am today, I'm telling my beautiful co-host here all about Gwen Shamblin and the way down. Oh, man. And I can't wait. I can't wait for Reba to come out because I think that Reba's really going to rear her head.
We'll see.
I'm like, will this make Alyssa cry?
Oh,
Do we
gosh.
think?
So, yeah, I think that's actually a great segue to say me and Rebecca know nothing about this topic. Allie found this and said, guys, I have something I want to do a podcast about. Don't look anything up. And me and Rebecca said, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca said, are you sure you're going to do all the research?
Yeah.
Rebecca made sure her faces were
I'm
covered.
the teacher of the group, and it's very obvious.
Like,
but
are you
before
really?
we really get into it, do make sure you like and subscribe, please. It's a great way to support the podcast.
Thank you for reminding us of that, Rebuka. Anywho, so just a little, I don't know, trigger warning. I wrote this last night very late, so if this doesn't make sense, I'm very sorry, guys. This episode is not meant to cause harm or to trigger our beloved viewers and listeners. This episode is meant to give us a chance to rage a little and to educate a lot. This is for people, well, it's not directly for people. This is really for your enjoyment, I guess, and to rage with us. But this is also, just in case, there are also people watching this who call us a cult, because there are people on the internet who call us a cult.
Like the three of us or fat people?
Fat people in general, yeah.
And you know what we have to say to that? One of us.
One of us. One of us. Yeah, the sugar cult. But yeah, so this is for folks who call us a cult for encouraging people to start living their lives out loud just as they are, because we don't reduce human beings to a number on a scale or a size on a dress. Because we are going to be talking about an actual cult today. So,
and what could be the potential triggers as we discuss this?
Eating disorders, restrictive eating, disordered eating, fat phobia all over the place. Also, I do just want to admit that I am a human being. I know that, when this episode comes out, it will be 2 episodes ago that I did say that I completely changed who I was as a person. I didn't comment on people's looks anymore. I'm going to do everything that I can not to comment on the way that Gwen Shamblin looks. I think it's entirely possible to say how horrible someone is without commenting on their looks.
Is that something that's like really commonly said about her, stuff about her looks?
Yes.
Okay.
So viewers, listeners, if you would like to Google Gwen Shamblin and come to your own conclusions, you're more than welcome to. I didn't mean to laugh there. Oh, no, I've got a picture for you. Just wait. Yeah. So anyway, Gwen Shamblin, her hair is full of lies. And
Is mine?
No, but, I just, that's Gwen Shamblin. And we will.
You know what they say.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
She is a holy lady.
This is the only thing I have done, is I have seen a picture of her.
Yeah.
Because I think there was some documentary.
Yes, there was.
Somewhere, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
so
she
I do
sleeps
remember
with it like that?
We will find out. I have more information for you about that. Anywho, so the higher the hair, the closer to God. Viewers, listeners, feel free to take a look at what Gwen Shamblin looks like on the internet and draw your own conclusions. Moving on. So here's what I want to tell you about Gwen Shamblin, which is not a lot. I don't desire to tell you a whole lot about this woman. But what I will say is that I do think that everyone has a right to be humanized to a certain degree, right? I don't think that really any of my research really did a very great job of who Gwen Shamblin was before she became who she was. I don't think that really there was any kind of like backstory as to why Gwen Shamblin got very, very obsessed with weight loss. And I'm going to go into all the things that Gwen Shamblin did, right? But I just want to kind of give a little bit of backstory, I guess, even though we don't really have a lot. There was really not a whole deep dive into why did Gwen Shamblin decide that weight loss was the hill she was prepared to die on. There's really not a big backstory except for she grew up in a very conservatively religious family. She hit college. She gained the freshman 15, and she hated it. She seemed like a human being that was ingrained in the diet culture, in a society that said thin is good, fat is bad. And she went into college. She unfortunately studied dietetics. Is that how you pronounce it? That's how she, I don't know why I'm asking you, Alyssa.
I was like, you're looking at me.
That's how she pronounces it.
I don't know how to spell it.
Are you vibing with us? Adam and Eve wants to vibe with you too. All you have to do is go to adamandeve.com now. Adam and Eve is offering 50% off just about any item to our babes with code TFFPod. Talk about getting it up. But that's not all. When you get one item, they will also send you 3 bonus sexy items and 6 free movies. Again, just for being our Fab supporters, you can enter code TFFPOD at checkout and you'll get 50% off almost any item plus 10 free gifts. It doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, all will be packaged and sent discreetly for free. I think I feel tears of joy coming on. Anyway, don't forget, use our code TFFPod, that's TFFPOD at adamandeve.com, and let Adam and Eve put a smile on your face today. I believe she got a master's, but she was a registered dietitian, which is upsetting. But she was a registered dietitian. At one point, she was actually working for public health in Tennessee. So this is all in Tennessee.
Can you give me a timeline here? Like, what year is this?
Yeah, so this is like in the 80s. Okay, so this is in the 80s. This is before your time.
Thank God.
Our little baby.
Our little baby. Technically, it's before our time, too. It started technically in 86. Okay. But 2 years later, we came along. But anyway, so...
You guys were born in the 80s?
Oh, my God. Babe. Yes. How do you not know this about us? 88?
How old am I?
Oh, she can't do that math off the top of her head.
How old am I? I wasn't going to give her the year. You
30...
kind of ruined it. I just wanted to see how well she knew me.
3.
No.
Oh, you sweet angel. I'm 36.
That's what I said.
Moving on.
This is giving very Teddy Mellencamp vibes so far. What's that?
That's fair.
Teddy Mellencamp is the daughter of John Mellencamp, who is singer-songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
And she was on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But a few years ago, she got really kind of fallen from grace. And actually, she got off the show based on it because a lot of people found out she was selling a weight loss wellness routine and such, but it basically was just eating broth all day.
Oh.
Yeah, and people were like, you are marketing eating disorders. But she was also someone who in her young years was a little bit big
I feel like I heard about
and
that.
felt a lot of shame, which I can imagine being in Hollywood and being around the elite stars and diet culture is everywhere, right? But I imagine in Hollywood it is intense. You're a daughter of a really famous person. But that doesn't mean you can't. She internalized it in the way of let me lose all the weight myself and become very restrictive of how I eat and how I overexercise, etc. And then let me sell that to others as a dream. So yeah, I'm getting really big Teddy Mellencamp vibes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can see that. Now I will say, so this did not start out as Gwen Shamblin wanting to be the woman that she became.
Okay.
The quote-unquote leader that she became, the quote-unquote line to God that she became. This did not start out that way. Gwen started out with the idea of weight loss in mind, to promote weight loss, to teach weight loss, you name it, okay?
And she's religious.
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
And she's religious, yes. But those two things didn't come together at first, all right?
Okay.
So she was just religious and she was doing this dietitian work.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say she was born and raised?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I guess she, she was, it's hard because some of the things that she was talking about in her weight loss, like programs and coaching and whatnot, wasn't inherently awful. It was, I don't want to say it was like intuitive eating, but it was honoring your hunger. It was very much like, fuck your diets. It was stop eating broth, stop with your cabbage, stop with your, 500 calories a day. Like, she does use a lot of words that can enrage people. She very much liked to use the word that women were enslaved to their diets and enslaved to their bodies and to their fat and to obesity. And I just think it's really, I don't know. I don't think white women should be using the word enslaved at all. In that light, or really any light, I don't really think she has a frame of reference there. But that's neither here nor there. She set out to make a difference in the weight loss world, and it wasn't really working out for her until she realized that if she paired God and weight loss, she had something. And that she did. So she wrote a book called The Way Down. This book went on to be a New York Times bestseller. This one was on The View. She was on The Today Show. She was on Larry King. She was on Tyra's show. Tyra loved her.
And what was this book about?
The Way Down was about her diet concept, which was not a diet. It was about a lifestyle. Okay? It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle.
And in this, she's talking about like intuitive eating and like not dieting. And
essentially, the lifestyle is stop turning to food and turn to God. Okay? The only exercise you really need to be focusing on is getting down on your knees for God. Okay? The Way Down diet. That's what this book was. And this was the book that came out in the, I believe in the 80s, or I want to say maybe early 90s, but it was like, she got like $1 million deal. And I mean, for the 90s, that's a big deal, right? In the 90s. So
you're like, it's a big deal now.
Shoot,
I mean, it is, yes.
Especially for a book, nowadays, books probably hard. It's hard out there for book writers, I assume.
Oh, for sure. But basically, she was being called the pioneer of faith-based weight loss. Don't reach for food, reach for the Bible. And very much, and now I will say I didn't read the book. That was just not in my wheelhouse to do.
Are they referring to like emotional eating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're saying don't eat your feelings, but talk to God about them.
Talk to God instead. Yes. So that's why I'm saying it's like her message wasn't inherently terrible if you remove God from it, right? And I'm not saying that God is terrible. I'm just saying that what she's talking about is emotionally eating. If you go, there is if you go to the Way Down website, there is a 20-minute orientation video. And in this 20-minute orientation video, it is repetitive. Gwen is repetitively talking about learning to eat like a thin eater. Like a thin eater. Learn how to eat and think like a thin eater. Okay? Do you need to rage for a sec?
No, my skin literally crawled.
I know.
Well, because that just comes from the assumption then. So putting those two pieces together in my brain then is saying, oh, she's saying that fat people are fat because they eat their feelings and they just need to pray.
Yes.
Right? Versus like if you say the statement alone, like don't turn to food, turn to God. I'm like, okay, like there are people who are religious, like, okay, instead of like burying yourself in emotional eating, like go to church, go to therapy. I can get behind that.
Sure.
But that I can't get behind the assumption that people are fat because.
And that's where things get gross.
So what does it mean to eat like a thin person?
Well, apparently Gwen set out on her own research, and she decided that she needed to go talk to her skinny friends, okay? Her thin friends. And we're not thin shaming, we're not skinny shaming. These are literally what she said. These are her words. I watched this video myself, 20 minutes that I can't get back, okay? But she asked this friend to lunch, and they went to McDonald's. And Gwen was floored because they went to McDonald's, and Gwen ate her entire meal, and her thin friend only ate half her burger. And she's like, how do you not eat the whole thing? Well, I'm full. How do you do that? Teach me your ways. Teach me your ways. And so she's just floored by this. And she's like, that's how every person who is thin, that's how they do it. That must be how they do it. So she's assuming, right? She's like, that's how it works, right? It's just they don't eat the things, right? And so she's literally like equating this to like, they only eat half the candy bar. They only do this. They only do that. But then her logic really gets fucked up here because she doubles down on this in a really, really fucked up way. Because she starts to go, she gets on these talk shows, right? Because her book's a big deal and all of these things. And she's doing this faith-based weight loss. But she's doubling down on this because she's like, no, it's a lie that people are predisposed to obesity. Because if you look at National Geographic and look at third world countries, those people aren't fat. If you look at the Holocaust, those people who may have been, quote unquote, predisposed to obesity, they weren't fat because they didn't have the food. If you two aren't raging right now, I will rage for you.
I mean, my first thought is the logic is stupid.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it's a platform. The second thought I have is one that's more personal and doesn't feel good because I do feel like in certain ways I perpetuate it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because since I have had weight loss, which I've shared in previous episodes, but not recently, I've had people say that they watch how much I eat now based on me having had weight loss, and they try to mimic how much I eat. For themselves, and this is specifically family members.
Okay.
And I think it's a really dangerous idea because you can't see how much you eat in a general day.
Right.
No one can ever see how much I eat unless they're with me all the time, and no one's ever with me all the time.
Yeah.
But also, I literally had 80% of my stomach cut out from me, and that's a very drastic move, a drastic thing to have done. And yeah, my body now experiences things differently, and it is malnutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I recognize that is that, right? Like, having weight loss surgery to restrict how much you can eat puts your body at a malnutrition state in order to lose weight. So I don't think it should be a goal for people, and it certainly does not make me a better person because I can get full off of that. It just literally is a condition of what I've done, and your body will always, if you haven't had that, feel more hunger than my body will.
Yeah.
So I think it's a like, I just kind of wonder, like, it feels like a bit of a harmful thing to hold yourself to that feeling, or that standard of how much to eat when your body is always going to want more than that. And my body wants more than that. It just simply can't have more than that at any given one time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of, I don't know, it's stressing me out.
That's fair.
It's stressing me out because that's been said to me, and I think it's a consequence of me having done it, that other people now feel that way around me when I eat.
Sure. I get that.
Yeah, and I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm enraged at the fact that she's literally like, well, the people who don't have food aren't fat. Okay. The people in the Holocaust didn't choose not to have food.
Right. They're starving.
They weren't thinking like thin eaters. I wasn't there, but I can absolutely assure you they weren't thinking like thin eaters. And I'm sure people in third world countries aren't thinking like thin eaters either. I can't speak for them. But that she doubled down on that shit too. Like, people literally asked her, like, you hear how that sounds, right? And she's like, I say it all the time, and I'll say it again. She was into it.
Yeah, so if there's not food, then people won't be fat because they can't eat.
Yeah.
And their body can't get nutrients.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that groundbreaking observation. What's your name again? Gwen?
Gwen.
Gwen.
No shade to anyone named Gwen out there. We might take that part out.
Listen, I'm talking to a very specific Gwen.
Just Gwen Shamblin. Just Gwen Lara. Gwen Shamblin Lara. Anywho, you okay?
Yeah, I think I might be pressing time out for a second.
Okay.
I was 100% being pulled into dissociation. And I think it's because coming into this blind, again, you have not finished, so I don't know where we're going. But part of me was like, oh my God, this is a cult about weight loss. There's going to be crazy stuff like being locked in a room and like having to like work out for food or like, but I'm like, this is like this is just normal diet culture talk. And I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
I think I'm having a minute of like, oh, I was expecting like these huge, crazy behaviors that I could
disconnect from.
Well, I could be like, that's so crazy. That's so outlandish. And again, like, I know these thoughts are not scientifically proven.
Yeah.
Right? But like these are just normal diet culture beliefs put on a platform of faith and remarketed. And I'm really struggling with that right now.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah, this was just completely different than what I was anticipating.
That's fair. That's fair. I will go ahead and tell you that there's not going to be any crazy, they got locked in a room kind of stuff. And I wish there was. I wish that it was, it
seems like it's more of a story about a woman in a powerful position who learned how to really sell it to a vulnerable population.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and finger point.
Yes.
Yeah. And then to put faith behind it, I just think is so unfair.
That's the worst part of it for me. Well, not the worst. I mean, a lot of it is the worst part of it for me.
I can't be a good Christian, Catholic. I don't know what the correct word is to use in her case.
Because it basically started to come down to, well, then God must not love me if I'm not losing weight. Because her whole thing became, well, just pray harder, believe in God harder, stop eating harder, all the things. And so if you're not losing weight, it's your fault and God doesn't love you. And that just, anyway, so this started out as a business, right? As the way down the book, the diet, she was selling workshops, but then what happened was these workshops then, people wanted to follow and they wanted to, it became this, oh, well, I only have access to these people on Thursday nights or Saturday mornings, but I don't have access to them on Sunday mornings when they're at church. I don't have access to them on, Monday nights, whatever. Like, I don't have access to them all the time. And at the time, people really thought, she's in it for the money. She's in it for the money and the power because she's got this huge platform. Because at the time, she was a big deal. She was a very big deal. And she was very much, I don't want to say the pioneer, but a pioneer of it's on a diet, it's a lifestyle, right? And very much one of the very first of the faith-based diets, right? Which are not an inherently new thing. I think I was listening to I listened to a couple different podcasts and doing research for this. And then I read a couple articles, and I also, unfortunately, I had to do some digging on her actual website and read some of her stuff, which I hate. But you gotta do it, right? But I was listening to Maintenance Phase, actually, and they did a short episode on this. And they were talking about how, a lot of people saw it as, she was just in this position of power and fame and everything. And what led her to start a church, right? Because when you think about it, like they called her a Christian influencer, right? I mean, at the time, like that's what we would call her now, right? A Christian influencer. And she had like all the world a stage, right? Like she had a massive platform. So why start a church?
Hey friends, do you want to contribute your stories, questions, or topic ideas to the pod? You can now submit written, audio, or video content to us for consideration in a future episode. You can find the link in our show notes as well as in the bio of our Instagram page. Hope to hear from you soon. Yeah, because I'm imagining like she's a contemporary of someone like Richard Simmons, who's like, right, that's just like very like much the jazzercise and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So like this was already a popular idea, marketable all on its own because this was such a marketable idea already. You know, it's never left, but you know, this was a moment. Yeah. So it is kind of surprising that she moved it into that place.
Is it?
But I think I'm even like with that comparison, like all I know about Richard Simmons was his love for movement and getting people to like move their bodies. And like, of course there was toxic diet culture stuff, but like I never got a message from watching him that like fat people were bad. Did you? I mean, I didn't watch him a lot.
I don't know enough to know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I
watched him on Whose Line. He's funny.
Well, I mean, I do remember. I don't know why I think of him like Bob Ross, which are two very different people. Maybe I don't know, but like I think it's the hair. It's the hair. But like I do kind of think of him as like he was always seen as like the joyful mover, right? Like very happy, joyful mover. You know. But I just think like that was the time, and of course my mom, being a kid during that time, having my mom who was very steeped in diet culture. I'm just like, everyone's on diets. Yeah, everyone's on diets. Yeah. Late 80s, 90s. Everyone I knew was on diets.
And I do think that Gwen's, again, I can't speak to her intentions, right? I do think that Gwen initially came off as a human being who struggled with their own body image. And I think on Maintenance Phase, they said something that was very poignant that was like, you know, we can kind of see her as this woman who struggled with her own body image, really had a hard time accepting herself, but also kind of said, you know, but I don't think ill of fat people. I don't think differently of fat people. I don't treat fat people differently. But then kind of started a church where like you can't move up in the ranks here unless you lose weight, right? So like it started out one way and then went a different way. Here's what I'm going to say about why I think she started a church, right? Initially, she was like making all this money off of this, right? And she's like, oh, well, I don't, you know, this is a non-for-profit. This is a nonprofit. Like we don't make money off of this. Half of it goes to taxes and half of it is for keeping the business running. Well, that's bullshit, number one, because half of it does not go to taxes, okay? I used to be a business owner, 25%, 35%, maybe, okay? But number two, do you know what happens when you become a church?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? What happens?
You don't get taxed.
You don't get taxed. Right? So what happens was she bought a whole bunch of land and she donated it to the church. She donated her business to the church. So what happened? None of that was taxable anymore. I think that might be a little bit more of why it started, you know, the whole church thing started. That's neither here nor there, but
like the actual location of the church, like religion was still part of it beforehand.
Yeah. So it was basically like, here's, you know, we're doing these workshops, you know, at other churches, but we could have our own location and call it a little church. So the Remnant Fellowship in Brentwood, Tennessee was born. All right. Again, this was in the 90s. And things kind of just started to go a little haywire from there after the church was formed. Gwen not only believed in telling people, you know, how to eat or how, you know, or how not to eat, right? Don't eat, talk to God. But she also believed in telling people how to live their lives, how to discipline their children, which unfortunately did lead to, I'm not going to give a whole lot of time to this because I don't want to. There was a death in 2003. A child died. I know.
Well, I'm just kind of like trying to figure this out.
In what context?
Yeah, she was a pastor. She was the pastor of the church.
Yeah. I'm just going to sum it up really quickly. Yes, she's the leader of this church. She is the pastor. She is the head honcho, all the things, right?
Okay.
And so basically, like what Gwen says is, she is the line to God. So what she says is a direct message from. Okay. And I guess apparently people were carrying around glue sticks. And not like Elmer's glue sticks, right? But when you think of like a glue gun and the glue sticks that you put in there, but these weren't the short glue sticks. They were like a meter long or something. And that's what people were like hitting their kids with. It's like a switch or something. But apparently some people took it too far. I don't know. And there was a family in Atlanta, because there were like these satellite churches, right? Like that were part of this church, but they were satellite locations. There was a family in Atlanta that they took the disciplining their child too far. And I have a hard time with it because Gwen paid for their defense attorney, but both of these, the mother and the father are in jail for life. But Gwen paid for their attorney, and I will say that
I am trying to piece it all together in my brain.
That's fair.
So now I'm getting Ruby Frankie and Jody, whatever her name is, vibes, who very recently are in the news. Ruby initially started a family vlog channel where she showed her kids, but a lot of her upraising the kids was very faith-based, but it was also very restricted, a lot of punishments, a lot of my kids have to behave in certain ways. But then she met Jody, who is part of the LDS, who was a therapist. I have questions about to what extent she was licensed. I think she was licensed at one point in time. She might have still been licensed at the end of this, but like they started really getting into parenting advice. So it was faith driven. They kind of had, but it was also very culty in the terms that they use. Like you are in, what's the words they used? They had some kind of version of saying you're in truth or not. Like you are in, like a delusional state or not. And they had very specific terms they used, but of course I'm blanking on it while we're on camera.
That's fair.
But they recently got arrested for child abuse.
Yeah.
Because they abused children and they abused Ruby's children, but it was all so much under the guise of we're raising our kids to follow these principles.
Yep.
That we are and are not at times holding up for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I always find it curious, like, I guess because I did grow up Catholic, but then stopped going to church around the 8th grade. I really only had a childlike view of the church. I really did not see or did not hear strong messaging to parents about how to raise their kids besides following the 10 Commandments, like literally base level, there. I remember taking classes on recycling. So it's like as part of CCD at my church. So like it is interesting to me. It is probably very commonplace. I just haven't experienced it for churches to extend beyond like looking over your soul to also how to live your life in a context of how to parent, how to all those things. Yeah. It's just not something I've ever experienced.
Sure.
So yeah, that's just kind of where my mind is right now. Is how often again it's not out of the norm. It's actually kind of very in the norm.
Sure. I know I'm really struggling with that right now because every other cult I've heard about, like
Kool-Aid cults.
Yeah, I was like, I paused for a second. I was like, oh my God, am I about to be controversial? I'm like Scientology, like I've been watching I'm getting controversial. I should stop.
Love it. I mean, it's fine.
I don't want to. Rebecca's looking at me.
Oh no,
like,
I don't have any feelings.
You can call it a cult. I think some people will call it a religion. You can call it a cult.
No, but Scientology is a cult.
I would agree with you.
How does it feel saying it?
I'm really scared. But I've watched
I would agree with you. I don't think Tom Cruise does, but that's fair.
I've watched so much on the Netflix special and learning about these. And these people have done wild things to their followers. I think about cults and I think about, oh my God, there was a TV show I was watching with my family and it was about a cult and oh my God, I wish I remember. I don't know. It was a big TV show back when I was a kid and I watched all the crazy things they did, but like there was I think an episode where like the police were getting close to like shutting it down or something and they like pumped like gas into every tent they were all in and like killed all of the cult members. Like it was like a mass sacrificial day. I don't know. All I know is that you hear some wild stuff coming from cults. And now I'm not saying that to be like, this isn't wild, right? Like it's just so much more normalized.
Yeah, I mean, but okay, so I'll say something that's controversial. Okay,
I love it. Let's just go for
like,
it.
A lot of people talk about like I know people who are in churches that if their family member leaves a church or someone leaves a church, they get excommunicated.
Yes.
Or they can't have dinner with them. And for some people, that's their religious belief. So I'm not saying you're wrong. You are allowed to live your life by any belief, But I think when we think about cults, we could see this kind of control behavior that makes us uncomfortable if we don't live that way. I mean, a lot of people talk about MLMs being cultish. MLMs are multi-level marketing businesses.
Like LuLaRoe.
Yeah. Like
who?
LuLaRoe.
LuLaRoe.
They
Who
sold
the hell's
leggings.
LuLaRoe?
The leggings. Mary Kay. You ever heard of Mary Kay?
And Ashley?
That's Mary Kate, but I love you for it. Oh my God.
I thought that's what she said.
What about like, oh my God, I can't.
Anyways, y'all, this is what we deal with all the time.
Wait a minute.
Mary Kay, like the pink Cadillacs.
The makeup.
Oh, I have some cream. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have anything.
No.
by them.
I mean, I think some of their products are
It's not a
fine.
church.
No. But
They have this like one cream that's like a miracle cream. My grandma found it.
All right,
listen,
well, we're not
when I was
hawking Mary Kay
Oh
over here.
no.
contact your
No.
local consultant. No, I was kidding. But like LuLaRoe, the very top people of LuLaRoe wanted all of their top sellers to go get weight loss surgery and liposuction in Mexico.
They did.
And they would,
What the
they
fuck
would,
are you talking?
and they
See,
paid
that's
for it, yeah.
the shit I was expecting to hear.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it
like
does
you can't
get-
come and pray to God.
It gets crazier. It's just not going to be like Kool-Aid crazy.
I'm really sorry, Liz. I realized I was screaming.
I got scared. My butt clenched.
Sure. I think what it is too is like, I think it's almost like triggering because it's not that crazy.
Well, I was gonna say that's the thing. Like MLMs, for some people, it's just very normal. That's how their business is.
Yeah.
And they've grown up in it. Like I remember.
That's not normal.
I remember when I was a kid going and buying lip glosses from all the women at my family's business who
Yeah.
sold whatever the cheaper one, not Mary Kay, but the cheaper one.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, most people are at the very entry level. They're not seeing the behind the scenes. They're not talking directly with the leaders. But it isn't until someone outs it in certain ways. Some people start saying, this is not right. This is not right. You have to be silent. You have to do this. You have to do that. And then we realize, there's a lot of cultish behaviors. They might not, fully be cults. But there's a lot of cultish behaviors and lots of things that we're part of. Take it like a workplace where like everyone has to be on the same diet or everyone is kind of, there's just like a pressure.
That's a
to
thing?
view. Yes.
I was just going to jump in there. There are some real estate companies, I won't name any of them. There are some real estate companies that have been called cult-ish because of, not only because of their practices, but also because it's not just about selling real estate, it's also about recruiting people. It's recruiting people and about your downlines. And about your, you recruit people. And so not only are you getting, money for the houses that you sell, but you're getting you're getting money for the houses that they sell, right? And then the people that they recruit and the people that they recruit. So it's really like...
It all comes down to power and how people are using other people to
Yeah.
achieve
Yeah.
whatever the thing is they might achieve.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is kind of normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And this also kind of acted that way too, in the way that people did kind of, level up in the ranks in the church based on weight loss, based on recruiting, based on, they had the workshop trainers who were going to these other churches and doing the weight loss workshops and then, stealing, quote unquote, stealing members from these churches by not being very, quote unquote, church-like. And I'll say that because I think for the majority of churches, I'm going to say this not being, I'm a Jewish person. I don't know a whole lot about churches, but I've been to churches. And for the most part, they're just very welcoming. Like, it's really nice to have you here. Thanks for being here. Hope you have a great day. The majority of them that I've been to have been like that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I know that there are, and this was very much one of them, where it was like, oh, you need to come to a real church. You need to come learn the real message. What they're teaching you over there, that's shit. What we're going to teach you over here, that's the real word of God over here, I'm imitating Gwen here. But anyway, she does after a little while, she does create a program for children, for weight loss for children. So yes, I know. And I do hate to say that, I do believe that in most churches they have like, they have the adult service and they have like the children's service.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have that in Gwen's church, but they didn't see fit to give kids their own service to sit through, but definitely their own weight loss program to sit through. And Gwen very proudly paraded a little girl and said, this little girl has lost 25 pounds of greed. 25 pounds of greed. I believe that was in the New York Times. Yeah. Or maybe in a New Yorker article. But yeah, 25 pounds of greed. But basically these services then turned into these massive weight loss commercials, right? They were having people stand up. We've got this huge group of people here, and together they've lost 30,000 pounds and blah, 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 blah. And like every single week was like people standing up and saying how much weight they've lost. And like the whole church was about losing weight, okay? And so it was very much like, okay, so here's
that makes me think like weight, like it makes me wonder what other things were used, but it seems like the weight loss was evidence of the Lord working at that church.
And so that's exactly what it was. So it was very much a pray the weight away mindset. She believed that, stop bowing down to the refrigerator and bow down to God. She believed that if you're thin, you are right with God.
I'm sorry.
I was imagining myself in my tiny kitchen bowing down to my refrigerator.
You know what? I've had some really fucking good brownies, and I've bowed down to them.
I bow down to Dolly Parton's brownie mix.
I'll bow down to Dolly Parton's
fudgy.
brownies all goddamn day long. But wait, she believed that if you're thin, you are right with God, which kind of feels like saying the quiet part out loud.
No, I think that is you're performing.
Alyssa, we're just going to let you go because I feel like we do need to keep this going.
Why are you moving on so fast from that? Down to the refrigerator. Bow down to
This
God.
is now I'm imagining us three just going to the refrigerator.
No,
and like Liz is behind us and we're like, one of us.
That's going to be the cover for this episode. We're going to go back to Alyssa's house and take a picture of us bowing down to the refrigerator.
I just can't get past that.
And now all I can think of is that terrifying scene from Requiem for a Dream where have either of you seen that? No,
girl.
Don't watch it. The character, the mom in Requiem for a Dream, she's taking these terrible diet pills that are making her go like her head is just not, she's not doing well. And there's this scene where literally there's like a chain on the refrigerator and it's like yelling at her and it's like it's very. And I was on drugs when I watched that movie, and it was not great.
I was like, that sounds like one of my normal dreams.
I couldn't look at my refrigerator for a week. Oh, God. Okay.
It's like, this whole episode is just my life, and some of it's my real life, and some of it's my dream life, and wow, it's really just where I'm at.
Okay. So
except I don't bow down to my refrigerator.
Well, not yet, girl. But we're going to.
We're going to. We're gonna do that. Okay. So I did just say, so she believed that if you're thin, you are right with God, which I said kind of feels like she's saying the quiet part out loud as far as what society kind of already places on us, right? And not necessarily the God part, but like thin is good, fat is bad.
Right.
Like
what is a successful life? What means we're doing well?
Yes.
All of that
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah. Now, like I said before, part of it was the same shit that every diet says. If you want a snack, drink water instead, right? Calories in, calories out, all that kind of shit. But like I said, she was not really into exercise. Like she was very much
about the food.
The exercise you need to be doing is getting down on your knees and praying to God, right? It was very much about the food, and food was the drug. Food was the
devil.
Food was the devil. Yeah. Food was the devil. Gwen very much did say that she was under God's authority. She also she kind of leveled up in the ways that she started to control her flock, if you will. One of her former members did say that he was instructed to continually weigh his wife. Yeah. So they left. And just like many other cults, and I'm going to just, this is a cult. But there's like many other cults, there are consequences to leaving, right? So all of these relationships, these friendships that you've made within the church, because they're very, very intertwined in each other's lives at this point, right? These are the only people you're allowed to hang out with. These are, a lot of them, like they're meeting their spouses, they're meeting their best friends, they're meeting their, their next door neighbors. Like this is who they're spending their lives with. And if you fuck up, you leave, you can't be friends with us anymore. You can't be a part of this anymore. So it's like the threat of your whole entire life is going to be gone if you leave, right? That's how they control. That's how they the mind control that happens in these cults, right? So it was very much a using that tactic. But then she went on, and not just controlling weight, but she's like, but this also applies, like, this applies to alcoholism. This applies to any kind of drugs, cigarettes. She instructed one man to take his wife's Prozac away because she just needed to pray. She just needed to pray.
I'm just imagining if someone took away my anxiety medication, what would happen?
Oh, I know what happens if someone takes my Prozac away. I'll
be fetal position shaking in my bed because my whole nervous system would be down. And that's what I do if I have major anxiety is I shake. I have complete physical reactions to all of it.
A former member said that they were told that they were going to hell because they gained some weight back. So this is when, things are escalating here. And this is still going on for a long time. Followers were not allowed to read any books not written by Gwen.
Get out.
And they were not allowed to listen to any music not by her son, because her son was a musician. And I love that for him. I'm sure that, he got a lot of...
Well, and this is kind of like where I'm like at a point, like, how do people not see it, But I think it happens slowly.
Yeah.
And I think also if like you're in a place where people don't believe in you and suddenly you're in this place where people feel very welcoming, they make you feel very valued, whatever, or again, you want some sense of belonging, you can start overlooking it because you're like, well, but I do get these things from it, so I'm okay doing it,
Yeah. So basically, anyone who left the church or disagreed with Gwen were basically, they had gone with Satan. They had turned to Satan, right? And current members were not allowed to have any contact with former members, no matter the relationship. So it's like, if your mom was in the church and she was like, I'm out, you can't talk to your mom anymore. Okay. If you met your husband in the church and your husband was
Scientology thing too.
Yeah. And your husband's like, I think we should peace out. And you're like, I don't think so. You can't talk to your husband anymore. Yeah.
No, I know local churches like that.
Yeah.
I have so many. Yeah. I have some family members that were a part of one, and I don't know that they'd want me to share it, so I'm not going to, but, there was absolutely consequences to leaving the church, and losing relationships based on it. But, I have so many bad jokes in my head about deviled eggs and like
That's
Satan's
fair.
Krispy Kremes, and like I just needed to say it out loud. I'm not going to make the jokes, but they're there. I think I'm good now.
Okay.
Just deviled eggs and Krispy Kreme that Satan likes. It's just like all up in my head right now.
I love that. I mean, that's the thing. The only godly food I can think of is angel food cake, and that's delicious.
It is delicious.
But deviled eggs, man. I will pick those any day. Any day. Are you okay?
I'm just...
Will it help you if I tell you this has a happy ending, but in a fucked up way?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I keep going?
No.
We're almost done.
Okay.
Okay. And then you can just...
I was going to say you could process.
I'm surprised Reba's not out. Like, Reba has not come out, but I get what you're saying, though. It's not David Koresh setting the whole entire compound on fire. You don't know who David Koresh is, do you?
No.
Okay, that's fair.
I was going to say, I don't know that one either, so.
What? Liz, do you know who David Koresh is? Oh, God.
Liz is like, I'm not in this episode.
I watched Liz, you are in this
We've
episode.
evoked her multiple times.
We have Liz in this episode.
I am really concerned for myself and how much fucked up shit I watch. David Koresh was a very prolific cult leader, and when they came for him, he was like, "The fuck you are," and he set his compound on fire with
people inside.
Everyone
inside.
I think I saw something about, like, I've seen this
I don't recognize the
reenacted
name,
or something.
Yeah.
He had non-consensual.
Mm-hmm.
activities,
I
shitty things.
I think to all of the young girls coming of age.
Yes.
Right?
I don't remember those exact details, but a lot of them.
I'm pretty sure it was
a lot of them. Yeah.
He needed to like baptize, bless you.
Yeah, that's fair. So anyway, so yeah, basically anybody who was disrespectful to Gwen or questioned the church's teachings of the prophet Gwen, and Gwen would never actually say that she was a prophet, but if anybody said that Gwen was a prophet, she would never actually be like, she'd be like, me? She also claimed that she saw 9/11 coming. And I think she actually did this on like CNN or something. She literally claimed it. And so people thought that she was a prophet because they're like, well, she said she called 9/11. Like, no, she said she called, and then you believe. Okay. So it just, it's the power of words, right? It's power of words. But here's the silver lining in my fucked up brain is that I do think that this just could have kept getting so much worse, right? But in 2021, Gwen's second husband, because even though divorce was very looked down upon in Gwen's church, Gwen did get a divorce, and she married from Mr. Shamblin. She got a divorce from Mr. Shamblin. I can't remember his first name. I think it was David. But she married Joe Lara, who was apparently a Tarzan actor at some point. Married him, and he was an amateur pilot. Yeah, and
oh no,
yeah, and so he and Gwen and 5 of their closest friends and elders from the church, they all decided to load up into Joe's plane. To what I understand, I only read this. I only read this in Esquire, so I don't know if this is true. But if it is true, I have no comment. I believe they were heading to a Trump rally in Florida, and they took off. Hang on, wait. You gotta let me get to it, guys. God damn it. I'll wait.
Keep talking. I'm cringing at all of this.
I can't. Are you going to behave? I need to. Let me get to my climax. I worked so hard on this. Don't ruin it for me. Okay. He was a pilot. They got in their little plane. God damn it.
Sorry, I looked at Rebecca. I won't look at Rebecca. Okay.
They got in their little plane. I don't know if this is true or not, but I read it in Esquire. And this is the only place I read it, but I also heard it on a podcast as well. I believe they were going to a like Friends of MAGA event, a Trump rally in Florida. Joe was a little bit too amateur of a pilot. So rest in peace, Gwen Shamblin. Rest in peace. She did get closer to God that day. So bad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I rebuke.
I
rebuke all the jokes about her death. I rebuke them.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the good news is,
I was crying, holding that in.
Gwen is no longer
preaching.
But her website's still up?
Her website is still up, and her daughter is still at the helm. I don't think it's quite as successful as it used to be, because I did some Googling, and it wasn't really, a big deal anymore. But they did do an HBO documentary. I want to say in 2020, I believe. They did a documentary. The documentary wasn't great. But they did do a documentary. It's had its moments. It's popped up and everything, but it's not quite the phenomenon that it once used to be. So it has died down, just like Gwen did.
I wonder why. And
you get it? Like down?
I got it.
Oh, we got it.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at anyone's death. I don't.
Truthful meter of that. I just remembered Ruby's word. Distortion.
Oh my God.
Distortion. Great word.
When as soon as you said I didn't want to make fun of anyone, I was like, that is distortion.
I'm sorry. I just basically encouraging people to have eating disorders by telling them that they're not right with God.
So I'm wondering, like, did they try and recruit fat people, or did they just believe fat people were bad and you had to?
Here's where I think it's so fucked up, is that they really preyed on overall women's insecurities. So it really wasn't fat people. It was just women in general.
Like it could be someone who's in our mind thin.
Yeah.
But in their mind could be closer to thinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like mid-size or just body dysmorphia in general.
Yeah. I mean, in Gwen's own words, she was like, I had those 20 pounds. I just couldn't lose. I had to lose. Right? Like, so it was people like that. She was preying on these people's insecurities that had already been instilled in them from a very young age because of diet culture. And she capitalized on that. And said, I'm going to double down and say, not only does society hate you, but so does God.
I know. So that's literally the moment I was having before, being like, okay, so I'm a kid, you know? I'm thinking like one of my most vulnerable times was probably like high school. So you're like a teen, you like understand, right? You're on the road to adulthood.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm a teen and I'm already so outcast based on the way I look. And then I'm brought to church by my family and a place that could be full of community and connection and so many amazing positives. Now that environment is, God doesn't love me unless I lose weight.
Yep.
You know, I'm just like really upset for the hypothetical or like the actual people who lived that, you know? Like you don't have any place where you feel like you belong. And as someone who I consider myself like faithful, you know, religious, I just feel like that's the exact opposite of what churches are actually trying to achieve.
And it's literally like, again, as someone who's, you know, I say that I'm Jewish. I have not been to temple since high school, since I graduated high school. I say that I am culturally Jewish. I very much value, I value my Jewish heritage very much. But I don't consider myself religious. But from what I understand, church is supposed to be a place where you go and no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what bad decisions, good decisions, anywhere in between you've made, from what I understand, you're supposed to feel that no matter what, God loves you, right? And so to take that and say, well, he would if you were skinnier.
Or he would as long as you're actively working on becoming.
Yeah. And he does right now because you are actively working on it. But if you gain weight, he doesn't. If you gain weight, you're just not, you're not doing enough. You're not praying enough. He's not listening clearly or you're not doing enough to make him listen to you clearly.
Where was their home base?
Tennessee. Brentwood, Tennessee. Yeah.
Because I'm just like, that shit wouldn't fly in New York, right?
Like
that shit wouldn't fly in LA.
There are cults that happen.
Think about how many wellness places there probably are where people might not have that, but they still have so much.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was like, oh, I've been to some like weight loss places that sound really similar to this, just minus the religion part.
Yeah. I think what it makes me think is like, there's a reason why I have so few people in my life. It's because I'm skeptical of everybody.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's hard because I do kind of walk around with an aspect of suspicion towards others, which, you know, is not an easy way to live, but it also keeps me safe. And so it makes me think that like this is so out of the norm to me because I pretty much walk around always wondering what people want from me. And like, why are they telling me these things? And like, are they doing something in certain ways to get these certain things? And it's not that I've never been naive to it, because I certainly have, especially when I think about some work situations. I'm like, oh, they really played off my lack of experience there, or they played off me not understanding this, or they're trying to make me think this certain thing. But I typically am pretty on guard for that.
Yeah.
And I also have a very resistant just nature to myself that is resistant towards other people telling me what to think, do, etc., versus me telling myself to think, do. To the point where I don't know if I ever could be religious, etc., because I just have such an internal resistance towards all of it, you know? And so, yeah, it's hard to fathom how many people can get under someone's wing like this. But I also feel like a lot can be accomplished with money and a platform and vulnerable populations.
Yeah.
And whenever you're trying to appease the people's need for or want for or desire for salvation, there's a lot that can be manipulated there.
Yeah. I definitely learned last summer that I was someone who was easily manipulated. And I think I knew that about myself, but just from past experiences. But I think after last summer and the experiences I had with two very toxic people, I wouldn't say that about myself now. However, I do remember that meme that came out last year that was like, I don't think I'm gullible enough to be in a cult, but I do think I am nosy enough. I do think that I'd be like,
you just want to look, you're fascinated in some kind of way to learn.
What's going on in there? And why are you all falling for this? I'm going to investigate. And then would I get too entrenched? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that about myself.
I find it interesting, like what you were saying, because I've literally this week have been told that I think too good of people. Like I expect that people always have the best intentions, and that I sometimes need to
be more questioning of what they're doing.
Yeah. So I think that even just speaks true to my history. Like I always felt like everyone was trying to help, and I'm like, wow, that's not true.
That was a big lesson for me last summer. Like after with those two very toxic people, it was like I really had to take stock of like who was asking questions because they cared and who was asking questions because they just wanted to know, right? They just wanted the drama. They just wanted to be the first who had the news so they could spread the news.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I would like to say something to Gwen.
Go for it, babe.
Fuck you.
Well, you know, sometimes we don't.
Like, just look up there.
No, she's not up there. I can tell you. Listen,
there's Reba. If
Reba's gonna make one appearance in this episode, it is to tell you that Gwen ain't up there, honey. Gwen way down there.
The way down. She went way down.
Way down. Gwen is in a hot place. And I bet you real fucking skinny now.
Oh my God. Listen, Gwen, I'm sorry that you
No, we're not.
couldn't love yourself
Ooh.
the way that we do.
We love ourselves.
The way that we love ourselves. No. I hope that you loved your hair. I don't think I have anything nice to say, so I'm gonna stop talking.
I didn't say anything nice.
That's fair. No, I think I am almost a little bit more mad about it now because I thought this episode was gonna go one way, and then your reaction.
Yeah, I got upset.
I'm more mad about it now. I'm more mad because like fuck you for making Alyssa mad, Gwen. But like,
period.
But because Gwen. It is. I would have loved for it to be this like, she did this and she did this and she locked people in a room and she chained people to their beds and all this shit. But no, she fucked with people's heads. She fucked with people's heads and she preyed on their insecurities, and fuck you.
I'm fat.
Yes, you are.
And you know what? I love you. I don't know if God does, but I do.
I mean, you're all right.
Oh, man.
All right.
I don't know that I have very many feelings for her. You know, my thought is, that's your legacy.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh.
Isn't that a shame?
Rest in something.
We're fat.
We're fab.
And fuck you, Gwen Shamblin. And we're friends. We'll see you next time. Bye.